Good morning, everybody. I'm here today again for a little bit of math. I've got Audrey Hepburn with me today. So Audrey Hepburn is one of my daughter's pieces of art. Again, that's duct tape art. And today's coffee mug is the Mr. Thalner, Mr. Newman um, Holiday in Cuba mug. So we spent our spring break in Cuba together one year. So today's lesson is brought to you by the Fellner Newman coffee mug and Audrey Hepburn in the background. All right, today we're looking at adding integers, part 2. I'm going to share my screen with you. Hopefully this works. There's something I want you to see. Oops, this meeting. Okay. There's an assignment. Not sure where it went. Well, now I've lost this. Okay, I'm gonna not share the screen with you because apparently it's not working. So we'll just get back to the regular thing here. But this there's a second assignment on adding integers today, and one of the things you're going to notice are some number lines, and the number lines on there are a different way to model the integers. So what we're going to do for starters is I want you to try a few of these. These are for review. So we're going to do a few examples. We're going to keep the numbers short and sweet so that they're easy to model. We're going to do -4 plus -5. We'll do +7 plus -7. And we will do a -14 plus +15. And we're not going to do any of the positive plus positive ones because those would be just like regular addition. So I'm going to go through some of these and explain them a little bit, but first I'd like you to give them a try. So you give them a try on your own, stretch your brain a little bit. You don't need to do a model for this, but just give it a try. -4 plus -5, or +7 plus -7, and then -14 plus +15. And then what I'll do is I'll do a little model for you on the side, and then we'll look at these with a number line model. And in the meantime, I have the answer keys here, so I don't really want to show you those, but these come from lesson 1.5. So lesson 1.5 will be posted later today. There's a second page to it. It looks a lot like the first one, so make sure you do them both, okay? All right, hopefully that's given you a little bit of time to work on this. We're going to do the models again to show you our first integer. Now these are all negatives, and if you think back to yesterday, we did the negative ones as being non-shaded. And if you do your first integer, there's our -4. If we combine, because that's what adding is, combine the second integer, -5, all together, there is -9. So there are 9 negatives. You can get that just by regular addition. And when the signs are the same and you're adding them up together, you're going to notice that all you have to do is add up the absolute value and then slap a negative sign on it. Now this one's kind of interesting because it shows opposite integers. And whenever you add two opposite integers together, remember this is just two of them together, the answer is going to be 0. So that creates 7 0 pairs. So you'd end up with a positive and a negative 7 times, which is another way to think of this. So on the top, what I'm showing across here is -7, and on the bottom row is +7. I did them in the wrong order accidentally. And each one of those would cancel out. So there's 7 zero pairs. I want you to remember that idea of zero pairs because it comes in when we are working on some other models and also with the grade 7 and 8 order of operations part with integers. Here we got -14 plus -15. So if we take a look at this and you start to think for a minute here, this one here, we have more positives than negatives. We have actually just one more positive. So rather than draw all these out, what we're going to do is a number line model for this one. We're going to think it through. And sometimes we put 0 right in the middle on a number line, but it's not necessary because it's an imaginary place. It is right in the middle between all positives and negatives, but we're concerned more about using the part of the number line that we need. So this is our first integer, and we're representing that with an arrow pointing toward the left because it's -14. I'm gonna switch colors here if I can. Oh boy, I just knocked everything over. Whoa boy. Switch some colors here. Red pencil crayon. Just happen to have a really bad old red pencil crayon. Our second integer that we're combining with it is +15. So if we actually counted along here, this would be going in the direction to the right to show +15. And right where it lands, right here, that's our answer in a number line. I don't know if you can make that out. It's kind of dim, but it says answer. I gotta get Mr. Stevenson to buy me some new pens here for my house, my home office here. I'm running out of stuff. Anyways, that's how you can show the number line model with adding integers. Very useful. I'm going to do one more example, but I'm going to do an example that has a positive being added to a negative to start with, so you can get a better look. So using the number line model, let's say I wanted to show 5 plus -3. Now these brackets, I just want to mention too, brackets can be used two ways when we're working with integers. One way that brackets are used is they're used to show the quantity or the actual number, the integer that's being used, and that's how they're being used here. Later on, we're going to see how brackets are used more like what we did with the order of operations, where brackets set aside different operations that need to be done in a certain order. In this case, this -3 is just being set apart as a value, an integer that needs to be quantified somehow. So the way the model for this one would work, and I'm going to actually use the graph paper, and I need to have some positives in here. To make it easier to see, I'm going to go up by 2s on my grid paper just so you can see the numbers a little bit better. And that way I won't have to squish them together. And if you have to do this, just make sure you keep them evenly spaced and that'll be fine. And the way this works is we're going to start at 0. If you notice the last example I did, the first integer started at 0. And we're going to start at 0 and we're going to show +5. Now remember, integers can be represented in a couple different ways when they're positive. They can be represented with a positive sign here or no sign at all. And if there's no sign, that just means that it is positive. And then you don't have to do this in a second color, but I'm going to show my -3 as going from this point 1, 2, 3 integers to the left. 3 integers to the left. So this kind of gives you a picture that looks a lot like our integer discs that we're using. Hopefully you can make that red one out. And then wherever that second line ends, at that integer, right there is our answer. Now I know that this is used on IXL a lot. You're going to see this. You probably, those of you that have been working on IXL have probably seen this model. I want you to continue getting some practice in with IXL. I'm a little bit upset because the work hasn't been flowing in the way it did last week for math. These assignments aren't too difficult, so make sure you don't leave them all to the end. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty big task. There's going to be a couple of assignments like this every day this week. Tomorrow, we will be looking at subtracting integers, which is, in my opinion, the toughest operation to learn how to do with integers. If you can add integers, you can subtract, but you do have to remember a rule. I forgot to write the answer into this one here. So our answer here for this one was +1. I forgot to do that. And then our answer here for this one is +2. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. Make sure you go back and do the second sheet of 1.5. Keep snapping pictures or what you're doing by typing out the answers and labeling them really clearly into a Google Doc. That works really well as well. For those of you that are falling behind, I do need to let you know that starting tomorrow, I'm going to be cutting off assignments because it's really tough for me to go back. Some of you are working on assignments from 3 weeks ago. Some of you are working on assignments from last week. So we're going to have to start keeping pace a little bit. So keep up with the lessons, try to do the daily ones, and make sure you have yourself a good day. And remember, today's lesson was brought to you by Audrey Hepburn. And she was in The Wizard of Oz, by the way. And my mug with Mr. Thalner. So thanks a lot. Have yourselves a great day. And